Hi, my name is Rod Khleif, and I'm the host of the Lifetime Cash Flow Through Real Estate Investing podcast. And every week I interview multifamily rock stars, and we talk about how they've built incredible wealth for themselves and their families through multifamily properties. So hit the like and subscribe buttons to get notified every Monday when a new episode comes out. Let's get to it. Welcome to the new version of Multifamily Rockstars. And, you guys may not know, but because of feedback from you, we've always tried, we're always trying to make things better. We've decided to make these episodes really more of a deep dive into actual deals and give you more practical and actionable, items for getting started on your first deal, especially if you're new to multifamily. And of course, I've got my co-host, Mark Nagy, with me. Mark, what's up, bud?
Good to be here, Rod, and just happy to see another familiar face for our guest here today.
Yeah. Today we've got Carrie Zatelli, and Carrie's a former attorney. We won't hold that against her. She's a mother of a 4-year-old girl, but she is killing it in the Warrior program. I know she's already in 123 doors. She's got another deal in a 66 unit JV, just went under contract, and just really making things happen. So we're gonna have some fun today. Carrie, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm excited to be here.
Oh, I'm glad you're here. And, it's great when, we can see successful women and inspire other women to what's possible. So it really, I think a lot of women feel like, they have hurdles in getting into this business. And we've got so many successful female warriors. So it's just such a treat to have you on and add some value today. So why don't we start with having you kind of tell us a little better version of your story. I glossed over so much. So please tell us who you are, where you came from, and why you're in our program and why you're doing real estate.
Yeah, I grew up in a military family. My father was in the military for a really long time. We lived all over this country, and we also moved overseas and came back and kind of landed in Ohio, which is where I went to college, and got out of college after 4 years with a degree in English, and kind of thought, now what? I don't have a lot, I don't want to be an English teacher. So I went back to law school. And when I came out of law school, I worked about a decade as a prosecutor in Cuyahoga County. I'm in the felony court there. And I did that for probably about 10 years, and then moved into to a civil firm, thinking that it would make a little bit more money and it'd be sort of a change of pace. And there was a lot of hours and a lot of time, a lot of weekends, a lot of evenings spent, in an office. And so I did that for a couple of years, and I loved being a prosecutor, and I loved all the trial work and being a trial attorney. It was just a lot of, you're an hourly employee. I mean, granted, you're making a lot more hourly than you could dream about, but you're still an hourly employee, and it was taking a lot of time. So I met my husband at the time and wanted to cut back on the hours as far as weekends and evenings. And we started a construction company together, fixing sidewalks for affordable housing for their inspections across the country. So we work nationwide. And that's how I started to get into the multifamily. I was around a lot of people that were owners of these properties for low-income housing, and worked with a lot of housing authorities. Started talking to people about being limited partners on some of their deals. It's kind of a different ballgame with the assumption of the government loans and things like that. And I didn't do it at the time. So my husband and I've had that company now about 10 years. And so then I had my child, and I had a single family home in Cleveland that was just a ton of work, and realized immediately that that wasn't something I would ever want to do more than just that one. So I actually started reading books, and I was going to buy a smaller apartment complex, and be able to stay at home with my child and just do something that was smaller. And as I started reading, it just didn't make any sense. As you start, I'd gotten a loan from the bank and started talking to different, management companies, and it didn't make sense to have them manage something small. And so I just started reading books and figuring it out. Then the pandemic hit, and I didn't want to start anything at that time. So I actually got a hold of your book and read it, and I was like, this is exactly what I want to do. And I don't want to do single family homes. I don't want to get, these 18, I had been looking at, 15 to 20 unit apartment complexes around where I lived. And it just wasn't making sense to hire a management company for that. So I wanted to go bigger. And I read that book. I mean, I read probably 50 books on apartments, but that one, I was like, this is it. This is what I'm doing. So.
Oh, thank you for that. Let me interrupt you for 1 second. So guys, I still give that book away for free. If you pay the shipping, it's like $6 or something. You can get it at rodslinks.com, RODSLINKS.com. I've never had a negative word said about it. So never. I mean, I knock on wood. It's all been positive. So I'm glad that was a little impetus. If it helped at all, I appreciate you mentioning that. Please continue. I'm sorry I interrupted.
Yeah. So I read the book, and then I started by realizing how much more I needed to know about if I was going to do something bigger. This was probably a year before I joined your program, and I started to really think about it and read about it and learn more about it. And then I had my mind set on a larger apartments and doing a syndication. And
Nice.
that was in and so I was like, now I just have to figure out how I get from what I want, what do I need to get there? And so I came across your program and thought, it's exactly, I had looked at a few of the other programs that are out there, and, I had talked with the people in your program,
And here we are.
And here we are.
Yes. Well, I tell you, we get a lot of people actually that come over to us after they join other programs. But now I'm very, very proud of what's happening in our group. So you joined in January of last year.
Yes.
It looks like. You're in 123 doors as a general partner. We have lots of different types of people that listen to this show, and so there's lots of different hats, as you know, that you can wear in this business. We're going to talk about the hats that you're wearing right now, which I read in your bio, which are awesome, and you're definitely playing to your superpowers as I read that. But what types of listeners do you think would be able to relate to you as it relates to this business?
I think that when I started to do this, I really, I had spent almost, 15, 20 years doing something different. And there's really a lot to learn. And in the very beginning, I think it's very overwhelming. And you think to yourself, how am I going to learn this? And then I got to learn this. And you feel like you could just work like 70 hours a week, just learning what you need to learn. And
Right.
so I think that when you start, or if you decide to come into it, you really have to sort of like, what do they say? How you eat an elephant, just like one bite at a time. You have to pick your bite and decide.
They're big bites. They're big bites, but yes.
Yeah. You got to pick, instead of getting overwhelmed. I think the first couple months, I came to the first Warrior event, and I didn't know a soul. And I'd been, in your group for almost a month or less. And, I kind of sat down, and everybody's like, what's your superpower? And everyone's coming up to me, and you almost like feel like you have nothing to say, because I don't want to, but you kind of learn a little at a time how to navigate everything, and you pick out what it is that you can do. You kind of got to learn what spokes are in the wheel before you can pick your, the one that you think you're going to be good at. So I think really for me, telling somebody new, you really need to listen to what everybody's doing and what they're saying, and really learn and sort of apply it to what and see where you fit in.
Well, you've got so many skills that the legal work. For God's sakes, that's a huge piece of this, and a lot of money gets spent on legal fees, and you could certainly help save that in your group. And you're a great communicator, and so on and so forth. By the way, guys, she mentioned the Warrior event. In our program, we typically do at least 2 of those a year, where we just meet with warriors. And you know, and of course we do deep dives on underwriting, deep dives on area analysis, but the biggest benefit is meeting other warriors because, you know, I got to tell you, and this is going to sound crazy, I say this in my boot camp, it's in this business, it's more who you know than what you know, candidly. If you want to grow in this business, it's all about connections, and my most successful warriors by far are the ones that are the most connected in the warrior community. And so we do everything we can to facilitate those connections and get people together when we discovered that. So the warrior events is just one of the biggest ways we do that. And we have other ways too, but that's the biggest.
When we talk about eating the elephant there that you mentioned, what helped you take that first bite? Because there's a lot of people listening that I talk to that have similar backgrounds, that have demanding businesses, work a lot of hours, kids as well as you do. What helped you make that decision of, hey, this is where I want to put my limited time into multifamily, to take that first bite? What helped you overcome that?
I think I sort of had a mindset for a long time that, you know, you work more hours, and, you know, I worked at a firm that had billable hours. And so it wasn't, you know, your time is valuable as far as to the firm or how much. And, I mean, work is just endless. It isn't like, oh, I completed a task. You know, you got to bill this many hours. You got to get this done. This has to happen. And you kind of realize when you live your life in those sort of chunks of time that you sort of lose some of it. And I really was looking for something that had a better balance for me. And especially after having a child, where I'm not gone at 7 and home at 7:30, you know, like crushing it with billable hours, but you're not. You know, yeah.
You have no life.
I think that was sort of a big shift for me. And when you're younger, I mean, it doesn't bother you. It didn't bother me as much to be busy on the weekends and, you know, busy at night and getting ready for a Monday trial start and on the weekends. But as you get older, you realize, and your priorities shift, not away that you want to work. You don't want to work hard. You just realize that there's a little bit more to your life, you know, so I think the shift for me was, I also really like, what I really like about the syndications is how much, I don't want to say control, but you really can use your brain to figure out how you make it the best syndication you can with all the problems you have. And I really like that piece of it, where you figure
the strategy.
out, yeah, where you have a problem, and that's something that my brain works that way. Like, okay, we have a problem. These are our solutions. What's going to work the best and come out there. I really like that sort of strategy way of looking at things and saying, this is the outcome if we do this. This is the outcome if we do that. And that's something that I kind of missed about trial work, which is, you know, you look at the big picture and say, okay, how are we going to put this together? And that's something that I really, really loved about, you know, the syndications. And even starting this first one, it was like love at first syndication. It was like, oh my, you know, I just really liked it.
Yeah, no, I love that part. I love that part as well. The strategy is just, and you know, and that's a major superpower, by the way, for you to be able to look at a deal and look at it from different sides, different angles, because a lot of deals have what we call hair on them, and you know, and you know, you're a problem solver. You put on your problem solver hat, and you know, some of the most successful people in our program are the ones that do that very, very well. You know, so let's offer something to the listeners. What's one action item that you could talk about that you think that would benefit the listeners that they could literally start doing today? If you could think back to, you know, when you got rolling here.
One action item that's really, really important that I had done in the past, but not with dedication, is the goal setting. The goal setting for your year, your week, and your day, or even your afternoon, to really be able to focus in. And it's something that you can do that doesn't cost anything. And you can make it a priority. I have an alarm set on my phone so that every day at the same time, I sit down and figure out how my day is going to go. And when I write it down, for whatever reason, that's how it goes. If I don't write it down, that's not how it goes. And I really think that was something early on, especially in the Warrior program, that I sort of rededicated myself to. Because sometimes you get so busy, you're just ready to start. Let's start the day. Let's get going. I got this. I got to knock this out. This has to happen. And the goal setting, you know, sitting down and sort of taking a breath, even for just 15 minutes, and say, okay, this is what I'm going to accomplish today. And you can do that without money, without, you know, you don't have to have a fancy office. You don't have to, I mean, you can do it, you know, when you're still sitting in bed for a minute if you want to jot it down. But for me, I come down to my home office, sit down. And that's really something that has propelled my success forward and my brain forward, because you don't get lost on, oh, I need to get this done. Oh, I forgot I was going to get that done. That goes on tomorrow's list. And that's really been a powerful tool. And a lot of that came from listening to you on that first,
Thank you.
and really it sets your feet in the right spot.
One of the gifts that I give the warriors is a book called The Miracle Morning. And it speaks to starting your day off right, with an action plan, with journaling, with prayer or meditation, with exercise, and all these things that you do to really crush the day. In fact, I just had Hal Elrod, the author, on again on the show because he put out a second version of that book. But yeah, if you you've heard the adage, fail to plan, plan to fail. If you're not moving forward and proactively looking at your day, it goes away from you. You're like a ship drifting in the wind. You need that action plan. You need those outcomes in front of you to actually achieve those things and have clarity and focus. The big thing is focus.
As that relates to multifamily, Carrie, were there daily goals or tasks that you were writing down over this past year that you would say maybe came up multiple times that you found yourself consistently doing in multifamily, and even maybe some on there that helped you get into this first deal that you could share with the listeners that are thinking they don't even know where to start?
Yeah, in the beginning, I didn't even really know what I had a bigger goals, but I didn't even know exactly how to reach them at first, and I came to so I started with the academy that you all put together that has all the pieces in it. I could at least start organizing in my mind what it is I had to learn. So I would go through those and say, I'm going to spend 2 hours at this time and do, I want to do part of the asset management. I'm going to spend, and that was a big part of getting started. And at least you start to learn all the language and how it works. And, then you're like, oh, this isn't so foreign. I mean, you see how it all starts to piece together. And then I would also say that one of my goals was to figure out what part I would play in those. And
It's a super important piece.
On my goals was to write down everything you would need, like all the pieces you'd need for a syndication, and say, okay, I don't like spreadsheets. I can read them, but I don't, to scratch that one off, you know what I mean? And then, well, I do, I'm pretty good at talking to people, and I have a lot of, friends in my business community that would probably be interested. So I could probably, look at raising capital. And so you that was my original goal, was to figure out like what my, superpower was going to be, or what it is that I would be good at, and what I could tell people, I can do this in this group, and I can manage this part of what we need to take care of. So that was sort of my goal in the beginning. And then as I narrowed that down, I scratched out all the other ones, and I thought, okay, now I'm going to be talking to people. And every time I talk to somebody, I'm just going to, say, hey, I sort of shifted gears last year. And, so that's sort of been, and building up an investor base.
You just helped me, by the way. You just helped me. And I'll tell you why, Carrie, because I can now explain helping warriors discover their superpower better because of what you just said. So I really appreciate that. And I'm very serious. So because it is a discovery process. And I think, I just throw, at the events, at the boot camp, at my boot camps and at the warrior events, I just say, get up, tell everybody what your freaking superpower is. They may not know yet. So you know what? I'm going to do a little more pre-framing before I do that next time. So thank you for that. Well, let's talk about your first deal as a warrior. By the way, did you get your sword yet?
Yes, I have it.
You did?
I love it.
Awesome. By the way, anybody that gets their first deal with us, they get this awesome freaking sword. I don't have it here to show you, but it's a real sword. It's cool. But anyway, so talk about that first deal. I know it's in Texas. Can you describe it a little bit?
Yeah, it's 123 units. It's a C-class property. It's pretty much a Hispanic tenant base. And I was brought in by another warrior. There was a group that had already been together that was, they had found the deal on Prexy from an owner, put it right on there, and they negotiated it. And so I kind of came in a little bit after that because I had actually been on a deal with some other warriors that the sellers backed out. So I had already had some investors kind of ready to go. And then when the sellers backed out of that deal, one of the lawyers said, hey, how would you, take a look at this? I looked at it and I, said, let's do it, and came into that. So it's 123 units. We bought it for 11.25. The cash on cash is about 7%. IRR is 19 and AAR is 20. And we're looking to hold it for 3-ish years, probably closer to 4, and sell it at 14.7. It came in, the market rates or the average rents were 11.59, and it looks like the market was between 1,200 and 1,300 at the time when we bought it.
Awesome numbers.
Yeah, and so then it was and it doesn't really need a lot. We're doing some minor interior, maybe some on some of the doing a little bit of the flooring and maybe some paint, but it doesn't need it, a lot. And it also maybe some things on the outside, some of the like restriping and resurfacing the outside and fixing some of the painting the outside, kind of making it look better. And we might add a unit because our certificate of occupancy has one more to go. And so our leasing office is really big. So we're kind of looking into possibly adding the market down there right now is the 1-bedroom, 1-baths are going kind of fast. So we were thinking about adding maybe possibly one of those.
Now, I wanted to take a quick step back because there's one thing you kind of glossed over, that a warrior or someone, they brought this deal to you, because a question I get all the time is like, oh, I'm brand new, I'm into real estate. Why would somebody want to work with me? I don't know what I'm doing. Why did they bring this deal to you through that relationship? What was the situation? Why did they come to you to help you bring this deal across the finish line?
Well, I had gone to that first Warrior event. I met a lot of people and probably said, 5 words. I mean, you try to do your best to say I'm interested. And then some of the Warriors had just, through sort of after you get back and you schedule some Zoom calls and you talk to everybody and you get in the group and you start talking to everybody that you can. And there was a Warrior here that was here for lunch, had just flown into Cleveland, had a layover, was here for a couple hours, was here for lunch. And then I met up with the Warrior group down for lunch. And it was one of those, like I said, one of those guys asked me if I wanted to be on a deal in Cleveland, and looked at it and said yes. And I, also having coming with the Warrior program, you have a coach that you get to talk to. So he was very involved with me in looking at these deals, and you really start to, you learn a lot quickly if you can absorb it all, and so met with the coach and went over everything, and he, helped me go through it to make sure I was looking at everything correctly, and was going to be a GP on that deal. That deal didn't end up going forward through no fault of our team. And so when I met up with the Warriors for lunch, I didn't know about the deal at that time, but months down the line, and because of that connection later, that person knew that I had investors that were kind of ready to go. It's really about all the connections. I mean, it just kind of links and links and links. You just, as your pool gets bigger and bigger and bigger, you kind of can make a bigger splash there with talking to people. And so I think they picked me because, one, I had met him then now a couple times, and I had met some of the other people, a couple of times, and had raised some capital. And so
one of the exciting things about the the group, or any group that you join, is the ability to share notes and compare ideas and compare notes and align on things. And if you're ever networking at one of these events, guys, and I tell the Warriors at the Warrior events this, but just for your general knowledge, the work starts after the event. The meeting people at the event is not the work. The work is setting up calls afterwards and building relationships, deep relationships, and seeing how you can add value. That's the work. And so don't think you're going to go to one of these events and collect a bunch of cards and your work is done. No. You're going to go to those, collect a bunch of cards, take pictures if you can, so you remember who they are, write notes on the cards, and then you follow up, and that's when you build those relationships. But that's what I tell people at the Warrior events. And by the way, if you're interested in applying to the Warrior program, text the word CRUSH to 72345, and we'll set up a call, and we'll see if you're a fit, and you'll see if we're a fit. And if it is, I can tell you it'll likely be one of the best decisions you ever made in your life. So, so back to that unit, because I did some math as you guys were talking. So if you turn that leasing space into a unit based on, I think I did $1,000 a month, that is a $264,000 increase in value to that complex at a 5 cap. And so, I don't know what it costs to do the actual remodel, but could very well be worth it. And whenever you buy an asset like this, you're looking for ways to increase the net operating income. And another thing I may mention to you, and I don't know how effective this would be on a C asset, but on our B assets, we always number the parking spaces now, and we do offer reserve parking. So what you could do is you could do a survey and ask the residents if they'd like that, see how many would be interested. And if they are, then, it's not a very big expense. And, that goes right to the bottom line. I talk about it on the show where we did a 296 unit asset, and we got an $800,000 bump in value from painting some numbers on the freaking parking spaces. Very exciting, because we have another one under contract a mile away from that one. That's even a better deal. So very exciting times. But anyway, so, if you were going to project this is a personal question, at your current pace, if you were going to take a guess or projection, how long it's going to take for you to reach financial freedom, answer that question. Give us a shot, and I don't know what your definition of that is, if it's just covering your expenses, or if it's actually living the life you've always dreamt about. So take that question any way you like.
When I thought about it, I think it's probably going to be somewhere 5 to 8 years, where I've been maybe through two, where the syndications have gone all the way through, and you're kind of reinvesting that money. So I'm going to say 5 to 8 years in my mind.
And moving forward, I know you mentioned a couple of deals, obviously, that are going to help you get there, because obviously, yes, interest rates are still holding steady, lots of debt coming due. There's so many opportunities. My inbox right now is just filled with price reduction emails from brokers and everything. And you mentioned 2 LOIs that you have sent out, 1 accepted. And one thing that caught my attention that you said earlier was you had 1 LOI that got accepted, but you guys actually backed out of that. And I'd love to hear, just for the listeners, what was the reason you guys backed out of that? And what did you see that made you decide, hey, we don't want to touch this deal right now?
That was one of my partners. She found the deal, and she's phenomenal. She's experienced, and she's just a phenomenal person to partner with, and talked to, I believe, the management company. And I want to say the management company kind of said, this is kind of a higher crime, and sort of roundabout, in assessing.
Yeah, they have to be careful. They have to be careful. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's some things just aren't the right fit. So that one wasn't going to be the right fit and in the right area. Some things on paper aren't always what they are. You can look at something, and when you start looking a little deeper,
Yeah. So Carrie, what is the biggest thing that's got you excited about multifamily moving forward in this business?
I think that one of the hot topics that's everybody's talking about is, with the interest rates high and not coming down at this point, that there's a lot of debt coming due, and people that didn't foresee this lasting this long or being there are going to need to do something to sort of to sell their investments and their assets. And I think that that's just going to be a good time for people having to either sell faster or at a lower rate. And especially for me, I don't have any, since I haven't been doing this for 5-10 years. I don't have any of those coming due. I'm getting in when those people need to get out. So for me, that's exciting because I don't have the downside of it. I only have the upside of it. So, and I've heard through just in the pipeline and people talking about their deals and what they're seeing that there are some people, I wouldn't say they're in a panic, but they just have to do what they have to do and, get those sold.
Yeah.
And by the way, for people listening, because I get this question a lot that don't understand this, when what she's talking about when she's saying debt coming due, commercial debt is not like single family debt. Commercial debt typically comes due every 3, 5, 7, 10 years, whatever the loan is or whatever the term is. And so they have to refinance or sell. And so when you refinance and interest rates are higher, obviously your payment goes way up, or you have floating debt that changes versus single family. The reason why I'm sure you guys have probably noticed this, single family is just completely flat and hasn't really dropped. They just have 30-year debt and it's stable, and they don't have to change anything, which is why people are not selling. And so
the reason they're not selling is because they could sell and they have 3% interest now. If they bought, they're going to have 7.5%, 8% interest. So it's like, so there's a big stopgap right now. I just interviewed an economist on the show yesterday. Probably won't go live for a few weeks here, but he doesn't think we're going to see some big interest rate deductions for quite a bit because inflation is still high. So it's going to be interesting to see how this is just, we've got a lot of conflicting things happening right now. It's very difficult to have, clarity on where things are going. And I wish I had that crystal ball, but it's going to be real interesting to see how things shake out. I believe they have to drop the interest rates some just for the election. They're going to put pressure on that, the current administration. But, how it all shakes up is going to be very, very interesting at this point. So, Carrie, are you okay with people reaching out to you just to ask questions about multifamily?
Yes, I would love that. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So I think I've got your stuff here, or if you want to just let people know where they can reach you, that'd be great.
Yeah. Instagram is just at Sky Syndication. My website is skycapitalllc.com. You can also email me at invest or Carrie at skycapitalllc.com. And Facebook is Invest Sky Capital LLC.
Oh, thank you for that. Thank you for that. So, she's happy to answer questions for you guys. So one last question for you, Carrie. What suggestions do you have for someone that wants to do this that hasn't taken action yet? And I'm not trying to have you plug the Warrior Group, just in general, what sorts of things would you suggest they do if they're serious about this and they want to take advantage of what we see as economic opportunity coming? Because it's definitely here. I've got a deal under contract that's mind-blowing right now, but they're coming and we're seeing them. But for someone that's like not sure what to do, where to get started, what suggestions would you have?
I would say, for me, I'm not a jump in without knowing anything kind of person. I'm more of, I got to learn it and then I'm going to jump in. And so start, reading, listening to podcasts. There's so much information on the internet. I mean, you can learn this. There's so much information, and just start narrowing down what it is, that sounds good to you and resonates with you. And just really an everyday, turn your car into a little, college, just you play the podcast and listen. And I think, oh, that sounds like something I could do or can't do or would like and wouldn't like. And just every day do something to move the ball to the goalpost for yourself.
Great advice. Great advice. Great advice. Carrie, it's a treat to see you again. I appreciate you stepping up and adding some value here today. And can't wait to see you again in a couple of years and see you in the thousands of units instead of the hundreds. So
yeah, I can't wait either. I'm ready.
All right. Thanks for coming on.
Carrie.
So one other quick thing. We encounter so many people that are frankly frustrated. They're looking in the mirror and they're frustrated that they haven't been able to escape the rat race. They haven't been able to build cash flow to the point where they're able to have financial and time freedom with their families. And maybe they see other people buying real estate and creating, incredible cash flow. And they think, well, it's just scary. Buying apartments is intimidating. And I get it. But see, that's why we created our Warrior Mentorship Program. They're our coaching students and they've had extraordinary results. My students, I've been teaching about 5 years and they own upwards of 140,000 units now that we know of, right? And we feel like it's just getting going. Now we're looking to grow this group and really take it to the next level. And honestly believe that the greatest transfer of wealth could be upon us right now with this current economic environment. Everything's going on sale. So we're looking for people who want to follow a proven framework, really like a blueprint or a map, literally step by step. And then they're able to leverage our systems and our incredible network to raise money and equity, to find deals and close those deals and build partnerships, really nationwide. So if you're interested in finding out more about how you can become more in our incredible network and take advantage of the unbelievable opportunities that are upon us, you can apply to my Warrior Mentorship Program by texting the word CRUSH to 72345, or you can go to mentorwithrod.com. And what we'll do is we'll set up a call so you can check us out and we can check you out and see if it's a fit. Now again, you can go to mentorwithrod.com or text the word CRUSH to 72345 to apply, and we will speak soon.